testify for you. I told her like you that midnight. All that I'm around, you scared to do. I'm not. Long as you joking, now in for me. I ain't got it. I've been scheming, do it. Hide your body. As long as you dreaming about me. Ain't no.
Hello, just got done with leg day. Look how sweaty I am. I'm going to be making a video today about why you are not gaining muscle. This is going to be a series. I'm going to do why you're not getting stronger, why you're not gaining muscle, and why you're not losing weight. So let's get into it. Hello, welcome back. I'm Kara. This is the Kara-dime. Today, I'm talking about why you're not getting muscle. So I am qualified to talk about this. I do have my degree in exercise science, and I've been personal training for a decade now. So I thought I would make a little series about why you're not getting muscle, why you're not getting stronger, and why you're not losing weight or losing fat. So I'm a handwritten note girly, so I have it listed as reasons, and so this video should be pretty straightforward. It's not going to be a debate on why I think these things. I'm going to say them, maybe explain a little bit about what I think, and then move on. If there is need for any elaboration, I can totally do so. But I get 5 views, so we'll see what happens. But so first of all, I split it into groups. So the first one is training mistakes. Then we go nutrition mistakes, recovery and lifestyle, and other. So first with training mistakes. So this is why you're not getting muscle. Not heavy enough. You are leaving more than 2 reps in the tank. So you should be, and that could be, some people use reps in reserve, which is RIR. If you ever see that term, and other people use RPE. You can also, if you're a beginner, think of it on a scale of 1 to 10 of intensity. And you want to be at about an 8. And say 10 is that you have no more reps left in you. And I always say that this, of course, you want to keep in mind that you're not mechanically breaking down and your form isn't trash. But all in all, especially women, most of us, even me sometimes, we don't push ourselves hard enough. And you have to change and progress the weights as well in order to see progress in your body. So not even close to failure is another one that kind of ropes into that. You're leaving more than 5 reps left in your tank. And I always do warm-up sets, and there's some days where that calls for that, but if more often than not, you're leaving quite a few reps left in your tank, there's a little disconnect on your goals and what you're doing. And not progressively overloading. And that just means you're not increasing some sort of load within those exercises or that exercise or those muscle groups. So maybe you've been doing 3 sets of 15 with 10-pound weights for the last 4 weeks. You got to go up, and you have to. My rule of thumb is, since the happy range for hypertrophy is, and there's a lot of science out about this, but generally the happy range is somewhere between 8 and 15 reps. And sometimes you can see large gains and returns with more repetitions, like in lower body. But generally you want to be within that range, and you want that range to be in that challenging zone of having a couple reps left in your tank, but not overdoing it or underdoing it. Cubby? Cool. And too much variety. I see this in a lot of my clients where they get bored, and it's kind of boring sometimes to be doing the same things, and I understand that. And I always recommend just mixing it up in some other way, like maybe taking a class once a week if it fits within your goals, obviously. And there's tons of different types of classes that you could do, or doing an outdoor activity. And then of course I do things in phases, and so we could do 4 to 6 week phases, or we can do A and B weeks. And so we could have 1 week that's exercise or workouts A, B, and C. And then the next week is workout D, E, and F. And then you go back to A, B, and C. So it gives an illusion of variety. But I always explain it as like, if you are practicing for a piano recital, you're not just going to practice any fucking random piano song. You're going to practice the song that you want to be good at. And so if you want to grow your muscles, you got to practice the exercises that grow those muscles. And practice makes perfect, literally. And the more you do it, the better your body gets at it, and the more you can push yourself. And there are variations of other exercises. There's a million types of lunges, there's a million types of squats, there's probably a million types of rows. There's so many things that you can do to target the same muscle groups, but it's really about the people who do literally something different every week. They pull up new phones, or they pull up new workouts from Instagram or TikTok every week, and then they get frustrated because they feel like they're doing a lot and they're doing workouts that work for other people, but they're just mixing it up too much. Just find a program, stick with it, I promise you, for at least 8 weeks and see what happens to your body. And not enough volume. So there should be, the science currently says that there should be 10 to 20 sets per muscle group per week. So only 10 to 20. If you go past 20, there's this thing called point of diminishing returns, where you don't get as much out of it as you think. It actually is counterintuitive to recovery because it's too much. So you want to be within that range. I used to be so sciencey about this and calculate it each week when I wanted to be at that 20 for everything. And now I pick movements and 2 to 3 accessories. Now I'm training a little bit differently, but generally I would do that and really just make sure I was doing quality sets and repetitions. And it made a huge difference in my physique personally. And then poor mind-muscle connection. It does make a huge difference, and there is science and experiments around mind-muscle connection, and there's even experiments about just thinking about working the muscle and seeing that it gets stronger. So it's really interesting, the connection between the mind and the body. So be very conscious. Don't be on the machines on your phone. When you're doing the repetitions, be really focused on the repetitions and then fuck off all you want. But while you're doing the exercise, you got to pay attention, feel where you're supposed to feel it, and then you'll know if it's too light, because if you're not feeling that much, probably means there's not enough load for you to feel the muscles going at it. So bump it up. That's training stuff. Now, nutrition stuff. 1, not eating enough. You have to eat enough to fuel growth. And I think especially women, there's a lot of fear around eating in a surplus, or body recomp is possible, but it is very rare. And the only time that it works is if there's a really good strategy and you're very adhered to that strategy, or if you're a beginner, your body reacts a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? Overtly reacts in comparison to someone who's been training, who I would consider an advanced trainer, which to me is you've been lifting for consistently, which means more than 3 or more times a week consistently for at least a year, of course, off weeks aside and stuff like that. And I would say you're intermediate if you're in that 6-month range, or actually, I would say you're in that intermediate when you're in a year, advanced when you get past a year. So muscle recomp is something that's very difficult to do unless you're very strategic about it and you train really hard and recover really well. So that conversation's aside. Not eating enough is an issue. Of course, you have to consume to create. So low protein intake is another thing. This is one that actually completely changed my physique for the better. And that one completely altered the composition of my body. So aim for at least 1 gram per pound of body weight. And if you can't do that, per pound of lean mass is great too. And if you don't know what your lean mass is, you can get a DEXA scan, which is the tippy top of the mountaintop of body fat composition besides like bod pod and like a water displacement thing. And then you could also do like scales that the gyms have where you have handles. They're going to be a little inaccurate, but it'll give you a ballpark. And then same with the scales that you can get at home. So you can use that to figure out what's going on there. Figure out what you need to do with protein. I always say that a great recommendation, if you track your food and you're eating 60 to 70 grams, you are not going to grow as much muscle as you hope. And so I always tell women, if you are not used to it, you should start eating, try to aim for 100 grams. Once that gets easy, maybe bump it up to 115. That's like a Greek yogurt. And then bumping it up from there to 130. And most women can sit there and be pretty good unless they have goals of gaining even more mass. For example, I'll eat now, super secret, I'm getting ready for a bodybuilding. I'm in wellness, but right now I'm eating 180 grams a day because I am on 9 weeks out. But I would eat 150, which would be like my normal maintenance weight. So eat more protein. Inconsistent eating which can lead to possibly like on the weekends. I do really good during the week because you have work, you're kind of busy, you're not really thinking about food, maybe have a little snacky at night when you get home, but for the most part, you're pretty good during the week. And then on the weekends, you drink. Alcohol does have a lot of calories, by the way. It's about the lowest calorie that I know of is a vodka shot or a tequila shot, which is going to be like to 90 calories depending. So that's the lowest. And then if you get a double in some soda, like that, it's going to be even more. And if you like darker liquor, that's going to be even more calories too. And if you like wine, that's like the most calories besides like drinks and things. So there is a lot of calories in that. So if you're going out and if you're like me, you can't just like tee and you got to go all balls to the wall, then I don't drink anymore. But that there can be quite a few calories, which can put you up at like in a surplus. This is a conversation for the weight loss thing. But also alcohol is just generally can kind of off your body too. But same thing, if you're inconsistently eating and you just kind of stress out your body, it's not going to help anything. And especially if your recovery is trash, it's not going to help anything either. So keep that in mind. And that leads me into the recovery and lifestyle. Not sleeping enough. This lowers your growth hormone and your testosterone. Yes, women have testosterone, okay? Naturally, both sex hormones. Men have estrogen, women have testosterone, and then vice versa. We both have each. So not getting enough sleep can harm those things. And those, if you don't even start in the comments about, I don't want testosterone because I don't want to look manly. It's not going to happen unless you already have some sort of hormonal imbalance, okay? Getting good sleep is good for everybody, and it's good for your muscles, okay? Get some sleep. Stress or like cortisol, so that can also suppress and impact your hormones. Zuko wants to say hello. He looks giant. Then you don't have any deload weeks. Like you're just going balls to the wall all the time. It's just poor training strategy. And if you're starting to feel really tired, I always say that a good time for beginners, probably after 5 to 6 weeks. If you're pretty advanced, I probably take one like couple months unless I'm doing something more intense. But it is good to have an intentional kind of deload week. He likes to sit like so on my leg. But, and then not too much cardio because it can be counterintuitive or maybe just not the right type of cardio if you still want to like be pretty lean. You want to make sure that your heart rate, generally zone 2 for most people my age, which I'm 27, in your 20s is probably going to be somewhere in between 110 and 140. Likely. So if your heart rate is shooting up into like within that, and you can always calculate your maximum heart rate, it is going to be the number 220 minus your current age, and that is your maximum heart rate. Then if you want to find the percentage you're supposed to be at, times it by, if I wanted to find 30%, which is zone 2, I would say whatever, I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to do the calculation, but 220 minus 27, which is my age, which is whatever that number is. It's 90 something, I'm assuming. Am I that old that it's not 90 something now? Anyways, I'm using my phone to record, so I can't use my calculator. And I don't feel like doing it in my head. But then whatever that number is, I will multiply it by 0.3 to find my 30% of that number that you get. So that's how you find it. And then I always do here, and I count my pulse for 10 seconds. And then I multiply it by 6 because the heart rate things piss me off and they never work because I'm really sweaty. So that's how I do it. And then other things that might come in to impact gaining muscle would be not waiting long enough, you're not patient long enough, you haven't given it enough time. I always use a general principle of after 6 weeks of consistency, people you don't really know that well, like coworkers, start to notice. And then after 8 to 10 weeks, people closer to you will start to notice. And then usually around that 12 to 14, you'll start to notice the changes. And so you have to give it a good few months of consistency. That means consistently working out. That means consistent. That doesn't mean you think you're consistent. It means I can look at my calendar and see that I did, if I plan to do 3 workouts a week, I did 3 workouts a week for the past whatever other goals that you have. You have to be consistent, point blank. And if you're not tracking food, that could be really helpful too, because we are more inconsistent there than we think. You'd be at a natural plateau, happens. You could change your training, you could take a deload week and hit it harder. But are natural and you have to figure out a way to get past them, and everybody's a little bit different, so one method may not work for the next person, but there's tons of methods out there, so find one that works for you. Genetics could be predisposed to some people like build really quickly and some people just don't build it as quickly. So it could be that don't compare yourself to other people is what I'm saying. Not in your lifts. Again, that kind of ties into progressive overload. If you don't know what you did the last week, or you don't even know the last exercises that you did, or how they felt or how easy they felt, then you're on the wrong video. Okay? That first. And hormonal imbalances, of course, that can always come into play. And especially if you have PCOS or things on those lines that can impact how exercise impacts your body. And you just have to be smart and strategic about it. It's not something that's impossible for you. Another category would be like menopause or perimenopause. It is possible to navigate things, but obviously there's a little learning curve, but it is possible. So bottom line, if you want to see significant muscle growth, you got to be in a constant surplus, or at least consistently being in a surplus. Even if you don't want to overdo it and you kind of lean bulk, just increase your calories from your maintenance by like 250, and that can come from hopefully good foods, and that will help a lot as well. A challenging program. If you don't have a good program, you're doing yourself a disservice. Even if you don't pay for a coach, find a program. There's tons of free ones online. And just follow it. And if it's just like, just 1 week of exercises, just what I said, and increase it a little bit each week, challenge yourself a little more, but you can do the same exercises and still see changes in your body. You don't gotta shock your muscle. Just be consistent. Get recovery, I already said that. That means sleep, rest, and food, and stretching, mobility, all of that good jazz. If you are working in limited ranges of motion, it can be beneficial for some muscle growth, but if you're really wanting to feel better and just like lift heavier, just make sure you're taking care of your body, your mind, your soul, so that you have less barriers to work around. And then just patience. Again, just patience in a program. And so you don't have to guess what's going wrong. You can look and see what's working and what's not working. So, yeah, go see if you check any of these boxes. If you do, re-navigate a little bit. And thank you so much for watching. I'll be done now.